Gotta take the time to cut them off, I need help. I know how to make the girl go crazy when you treat her like your number one baby.
What is the deal, beautiful people?
I am Tawan.
Yeah, that's Tawan.
And he's
Ramon. You guys, it's the second time because they saw snow on the 1,000 subscriber video.
Yes, he did.
It's the second time introducing an OG member you guys never seen on this channel.
Yeah, this is the
photography channel.
I am stoked to be here. So I am stoked.
So you guys may not know, but this was kind of sort of our original format. If you go back on the LD, the main channel, where we do all our tech, link in the description below, and you look way back, we're talking 4 or 5 years ago, you'll see this format rocking a lot. And this is where our conversations came from, was a back and forth, would you refer to it, a duality that was happening.
Sometimes argument, sometimes arguments work. Sometimes you gotta get that argument out to to build. That's called building. I think that's what it's called. So
So today's topic was I had a coworker ask me, he saw my work on Instagram.
Fucking awesome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I work in the fashion industry, and a lot of these people spread both directions, fashion, arts, and whatnot. And it's usually it almost is actually a compliment when they see my work and go, "Holy shit, like you're really good." Because these people are in that world where they have taste and they know what good work is. So it's a good compliment. And he asked, he said, "Well, would you consider yourself a pro?" I had to go back and go, am I a pro? So this got me thinking two ways, right? What makes a professional photographer a professional? And then I also thought about, it led me to the concept or the ideology of professional gear. Even if I said I was a professional photographer, do I shoot with professional gear?
Do you have to? Maybe a better question.
Exactly. So I jotted down a few points for us to run down because I think it's a very interesting thing. Starting from what makes a professional photographer. One of the points for me is that they know their camera inside out.
It's an extension of a body part.
Exactly. And I feel like I'm there. And especially on this channel, I tote that a lot, because I have so much different cameras and so much access to different systems. Fuji, Canon, Olympus, Panasonic, Sony. I get my hands on them, and I pride myself in the ability to sit there and figure it out. And the way you figure it out is you start from the conceptual part of how to use a camera. Some things are always going to be the same. Your exposure triangle. You got f-stop, your aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Those will never change. And every camera company is going to want to find a way to make it easy for you to get to those three things. And then there's always going to be some buttons that you could assign to some other functions like focusing or turning on features like focus peaking, zebra. So it's generally the same, but it's all about your ability to find where these things are, encumbersome with the ergonomics of the camera. What makes sense for you? Well, I can't reach this button, so I got to put this over here, like shit like that. So I think a professional photographer is able to pick up his or her camera and just the camera goes away. We spoke about this in technology. As much as I hate Apple, I gave them. I said, one of the things about Apple that they got very early on is their phones disappear. Meaning, you hand someone an LG and you say, send a text, send an email, make a phone call. They're gonna be like, where's the button? What does the app look like? Versus on an iPhone, send a text, send an email, make a phone call. Boom, 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 done. The phone disappears. It's just about what they're doing. That's how a photographer's camera is to them. The second point I had is a photographer needs to know their style inside out.
Now when you say style, you mean what type of photography you shoot, or
not genre, style?
Okay.
So here's one thing, and this is where I currently am struggling as a photographer. You'll see like fashion magazines product magazines. They'll go, yeah, we had to have him because we know we needed his style to do this car justice. That's a huge thing in the industry.
And I agree. And I think that when you're talking style, so you wouldn't get a person who shoots nature, buildings, and objects outside of studio meant for fashion. You wouldn't get a person who shoots those, right? So you want somebody that shoots more portrait, more headshots.
But even with that, it's a fork,
right?
So for instance, you got portrait works. You have, and this is where it's a lot of work to figure out style, because you don't know. You're in a studio. It's lights and it's your camera. What do you mean style?
Right.
There's what is this guy's name? Platon. I think his name is Platon. There's a documentary on him. Remember the documentary about Tinker?
Right.
That I told you to watch?
Yeah,
from
I saw it.
Inspired or whatever the Netflix series was.
Right.
They had one on a photographer, Platon.
Really?
So he's a portrait photographer. He shot many leaders. So he shoots with I think it's a 35 millimeter camera.
The crown jewel of photographers,
yes.
I think.
Yes. Medium format, I think it's called. Medium format. So it's bigger than a full frame sensor.
Right.
But he shoots with that, and he shoots wide angle. Now, anyone in your right mind will say, you don't shoot portraits wide angle because it distorts limbs and body features.
Because it's asking to focus on particular areas.
Right. And it elongates. I can show you the effect later on. So it's not flattering to the subject. But this guy made a living. He shot so many presidents, Fidel Castro. He like famous people. This is his style, and he does it from the top down. So when you see a Platon picture, you're like, I know exactly who shot that. And I also did a video about things to ignore as a photographer, and the genius being one of them.
Right.
Don't let someone come in and tell you, no, you don't shoot. That's silly. You're not supposed to shoot portraits with a 12 millimeter. You shoot it with an 85 millimeter, which is what because you get that long, it's very pleasing to the face. You get a lot of bokeh, depth of field. This guy doesn't do it. We all do. Everyone's a bokeh whore.
What?
So this guy, he doesn't do it.
Right.
But his work is so iconic, and you're just like, he made his own lane. I'm like, yo, that's dope, and that's his style. And then and you wouldn't know it until you're privy to people's names in the industry, and then you say, how do you identify? It's a picture of a car. It's dope. It's edited nice, yada yada yada. But it's not until you start to stack these people's work up, project by project, year by year, and then you get another photographer and do the same, and you compare. You can blatantly start to see the differences. Like, this guy goes for epic close-ups. This guy goes for details.
And one thing that differentiates hugely between a photographer, and I want to step away from the term photographer and use artist, because a photographer is an artist. They see the beauty. That's
a good conversation that we had right there.
They see the beauty in an image, and they capture that image, and they make it art. So now you have an artist. So you say he was shooting what were some of his subjects? Old presidents.
Yeah, he shot like what's the guy that was the black guy that was second to Bush.
Colin Powell.
Colin Powell. He had a really good Colin Powell. Yeah.
Right. So now you have artists shooting pictures prior to post-production items. There was no what do you call it? There was no Lightroom. There was no.
Well, no, he does. He's got a whole production team behind him.
Right now, but the point is, you have people who took photography or artists who took photography or took pictures. Let's take, for instance, someone who shot photography in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. There was no post-production. There was no editing. You had to nail that shot.
There's, Ansel Adams. You've heard of Ansel Adams? So Ansel Adams was like he did a lot of like landscape work in like our national parks, like Yosemite and all of that stuff. But he's like God when it comes to like landscape. And this is film but he would burn. He would actually like edit in the darkroom with film. It was the craziest shit. People was like, what is this guy doing? Yeah. But it wasn't easy. Like not everyone could do this.
It added certain lights.
Yeah, I think it would be called like dodge and burning, which is like a button in Photoshop. But it was like a whole process in the darkroom to make the blacks blacker, make the whites whiter, and get a better contrast. Like his images were like wildly different than anyone in his time.
And then you have pictures like the gentleman that shot what's the dude? Oh God, Cassius Clay. Like that was his personal photographer. Why am I saying Cassius Clay? Muhammad Ali.
Howard Bingham.
Yep, Howard Bingham. This man, and he was not by definition a professional photographer.
He just documented a hell of a person.
What? His shots of that man were iconic.
Yeah, the Time magazine one's dope.
Black and white shots. So now we're talking, and I don't want to get into another realm of photography. I just want to put everything in perspective. To be a professional photographer, and the in line of the subject that we're talking about, there are very different levels of being a professional. There are some professionals that are very broad, and there are some professionals that are linear, but they're professionals nonetheless.
Yeah, I would agree. If we're gonna take it for face value, I feel like a professional photographer. If you get paid for your work, you're a professional photographer. I have been paid for my work many times. I have been paid. I've done engagement shoots. I've done portrait shoots, product shoots. Like I'm a professional. But, not the way I want to be a professional. I want you to Google Ramon Trotman.
And there you have it.
I have one picture that comes up on you outside of all my other stuff, but I took a picture outside of Trump. They had a protest that said, make love, not build walls, or some shit like that. I took the picture, hashtagged it, and the guy that ran the campaign saw it, reposted it. He hit me up and asked me, can I use it? I said, yes, reposted it. Then some big right-wing, or is it left wing? I'm not in politics. Whoever the hell doesn't support Trump had some big media conglomerate had a whole article about this guy and his movement and pictures there. I was like, holy shit, that snowballed quickly.
That trended very, very fast.
Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Did you watermark the fucking pictures, sir?
I don't watermark shit, man. But this magazine. This magazine did it the right way.
Right.
They say photo credit to Ramon Trotman.
Nice.
And Google does pick that up. So, you know where it was coming from.
Yeah. Once you get that, once you get acknowledgement, you can say
yes.
You can credit that as being perhaps a professional photographer. I think because the internet. The internet makes the conversation smaller, if that's perhaps the best way of looking at it, because I can post a picture like I do. I shoot a lot of sneakers. I did a sneaker, the Air Jordan 5, the one I just did the review for. So, and I took it, I sat it on this little thing that was like, it was wood and it was like embedded with moss.
Yeah.
And I sat it on that sneaker and I took a couple of shots. I didn't take the shots with my professional my camera. I took them with the friggin' iPhone. But it was the contrast in colors, the greens from the moss. The backdrop, I bulked it out as best as I could. Everything, and it was really, really a nice shot that was acknowledged by a lot of people, a lot of photographers on Instagram. And I was like, I just shot it on the side of my house. But I think it's just perspective. I think I'm
looking at it, Sean. That was a good shot. That's your foresight, your composition. That's what makes you a photographer,
right?
And that actually leads to the third point. What makes a pro to me is you do the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. Because that then lends to you knowing your camera inside out. It lends to you and your style.
Yeah.
The fact that you do the same thing, people go, no, when I conceptualize something, mm-hmm. I know exactly who to go to,
right,
for that look, right, mm-hmm. and that's real. That's real. I mean, we mm-hmm. see that in magazines, we see it in fashion photography, we see it on Instagram. Right. A lot of these Instagrammers, these lifestyle photographers, or I don't know if you would call it, that's a conversation of its own. Instagrammer versus a photographer. Right. You see they've got their own style. Mm-hmm. Very desaturated picture, punchy contrast, super white background everywhere.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, yo, that's so if you're now selling a belt, a right. piece of jewelry, and you want that high key studio look, right. lifestyle look, you know exactly where to go to get that and who to call for that.
Yep.
So doing the same thing and again, practice makes perfect. Mm-hmm. Consistency is key. And you'll get there and you'll just know it inside out, where you could wake out of your bed and do it with your iPhone as opposed to your $4,000 Canon.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? Like that's where I think a lot of what a professional photographer should come from. Now, this is the fun part. What makes a pro camera a pro camera? A pro camera.
Oh.
This is where people just fucking lose their mind. Like, this conversation
it becomes an argument. People start, it's bloodshed. Break out the sticks and bats and chains.
Oh my God.
Get that Canon out of here and bring it back. And
so there was a wedding magazine.
Okay.
Published an article about photography and photographers. And they do the how to choose your flowers and how to choose this, and they go 11 questions to ask your photographer to make sure they're the right one, mm-hmm. whatever, something like that. Mm-hmm. So the brilliant author of the article goes, ask your photographer what camera are they using. Mm-hmm. If they say they aren't using a Canon or Nikon, then they're probably not a professional. My man, the internet was on fire.
What?
Fire.
Just the mere mention of that is enough to set me ablaze. How dare you?
People was like, what?
First of all, who? No, listen. I just want to take a few steps back. Who said this?
It was an author in a wedding magazine. I was like, what?
Listen, this is the first time I'm hearing this. I'm hearing this along with you guys out there. Please be advised, the person who said this is clearly off of their rocker.
Yo, it was, dude, that article spread like wildfire through the photography. Because you gotta understand now, I get it. But to what means? So if someone shows up in a Lexus,
right,
to a club where people used to BMWs and Mercedes, are you gonna say this man's Lexus is not luxury? Oh no, German cars are like you can't.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
You can't.
You know what I mean? But because the majority perhaps prefer AMG and Moto Trend, doesn't mean that Lexus isn't a luxury brand or a sports luxury brand.
Right.
Doesn't mean, my man, if I want to go around the corner at 80 miles an hour, everything will get you there. Some will get you there a little more sideways than others. Some will grip a little better than others, but you'll still do the same 80 miles around the corner.
Pretty much.
Like you can't do that.
Some get you around that corner louder.
Yeah.
But it will be the same
Some
speed.
will make you work to get around the corner, which to some people that means more fun.
Right.
But to some people, I don't want fun. I want the shit to get around the corner.
Easy and smooth.
So it's you can't be that way. And I get it when you go to a professional shoot, wedding, even product shoots or fashion shoots. Chances are you'll see Canon or Nikon.
Right.
But these days, for various reasons, you'll probably see a Sony somewhere in there because Canon and Nikon been lazy as fuck. And they only, it seems to be, they don't give a shit about what everyone else is doing. They only worry about each other.
Yep.
So as long as Nikon is not making a mirrorless camera, Canon's like, I'm not doing one neither.
And what happened? Canon now produces a mirrorless camera.
But it's a little entry, we're talking to big boys.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. And I mean, it doesn't work as well as my 6000.
No.
All right.
No, I mean even though it's an APS-C sensor, it's still not. It's not in the conversation.
No,
but nonetheless, the first point I have to what makes a professional camera is reliability.
Right.
And this is something let's not pretend all cameras or all things don't have problems.
Right. They do.
Like some cameras, this one button just tends to fuck up. And pros would know this because usually pros buy one or two of the same camera.
Yeah.
Because they'll often keep a long lens and a short lens. Right? Or you just buy it for redundancy's sake. You're on a shoot. Okay, I have one camera that I'm using, and if that breaks for whatever reason, go in the bag, grab the same exact camera, throw the lens in, throw the camera in, throw the card in, we back to business. That's how pros work. So it's about reliability. I'm not saying perfection. So for a professional, he or she wants to know if this one button's gonna break, I need to know about it because I know what to expect when I pick up my camera.
And you're prepared for it.
And I'm prepared. That's reliability. I mean, you would rather the button fucking work. But I'm saying,
but it's like it becomes wins and losses. So the camera performs to where the professional wants it to.
So you can.
And I would rather have another of the same camera than to buy a different camera, and lose the reliability.
Yes.
Lose that something that this camera has.
And that offsets your consistency.
Yep.
So I get it. And I mean, also reliability in a sense where not only do they know what to expect, but these things are usually, and I feel like a pro camera should be weather sealed.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the upper end Canons, a lot of the Sonys aren't.
Yeah.
Most of the Sony, I don't think any of the Sony. I think the A lines, the A7s are Sort of, but not like to the point where like the Olympus.
It may be splash resistant,
right.
But it's not.
Right, it's not like weather sealed.
Yeah.
Like, these dudes be out there in hurricanes, like getting it in.
Yep.
I feel like, you need that. And even if you're not shooting hurricanes, you want to be on a product set where somebody knocked over the bottle of vodka that you're filming and it falls all over your camera. And you're just like, no worries, dry it off. We in there.
Yep.
We good to go. Not a big deal. So that's one. Two is I think pro cameras should have tactile buttons and feels to it.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean is a good example would be, I'm not saying this is a pro camera,
right?
But a good example why I appreciate the Olympus is their dials. Mm-hmm. I don't need to look. So if I'm in a viewfinder, I know what I'm doing. I know what does what. Mm-hmm. You see this a lot on the Fuji cameras. The Fuji cameras are amazing for this. Mm-hmm. The Canons, I recently did a review for the 5D Mark IV.
Right.
It's one of Canon's big boys, still very relevant, and I liked it. Mm-hmm. They even gave you a button to quickly change the autofocus because that camera has a million different autofocus options. Mm-hmm. And this is something you won't understand until you try to do like, you ever try to autofocus on something and the camera keeps grabbing like that?
Yes.
And you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
And you're like, it's kind of like I'm moving the camera to adjust to then bring it back and it won't.
See,
fucking
on the Canon, they thought about a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And there's reasons why. You know, if you got a contrast-based autofocus, all these things they know about. And there's a button. Boom, change autofocus type. Boom, done. Just like, yo, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. That's something I haven't seen on the Sony. That's something I haven't seen on any other camera. I'm just like, yo, Canon knows what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like as a pro, you need these things.
Right.
As a pro camera, it's important that the factory understands the consumer that's buying this camera and who is it for. Mm-hmm. Like, you as a tourist, you don't give a shit about different types of autofocus. You just need autofocus.
Point and shoot.
Because half the time you don't even know or care when your image is out of focus. You shoot an iPhone.
Yep.
So that's not warranted over there. But as a pro, nah, I need this shot. I need a way to get this shot. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different, there's a feel to the button. You need to be able to be confident in the dials.
Right.
And you need to not have to like, shit, what mode? How do I... It all needs to feel a certain way. It needs to be there.
Agreed.
The third point would be available glass. Ooh. This is where Sony's taking a beating for some time. Yes. And they're still flushing out their line. One, Sony's glass is stupid expensive.
Horribly expensive.
But it doesn't matter. It's expensive for us, who would you say would be the enthusiasts. But as a pro... If you're making $10,000 a wedding, a $3,000 lens is
$5,000 lens.
That's nothing to you.
I'll get it.
Right? That's okay. But there are a lot of different ranges that Sony just doesn't have available. For instance, like that 500 millimeter lens. A lot of wildlife and bird photographers, Nat Geo dudes, they use these ridiculous lenses. Sony just doesn't make them. Not now. I mean, they announced it a while back, but it's not out yet.
Right.
Really strong 70 to 200 is what you were asking about. Yeah. They don't make fast versions of those. So you may get an f4, but some people want an f2.8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that low light.
Right. And like super wide angle. They just came out with like the 14 to 24, I think it was. 14 or maybe 12 to 24. F2.8 Sony. And it was a G Master, and it was like, yes, finally, people have been waiting for that lens.
But how much is it?
Oh, it's probably $2,500.
God.
Yeah. No, I mean, I actually want that lens too. But this is where Sony got beaten up. But when you go to Canon, as a wedding photographer, a portrait photographer, or even a Nat Geo, you're out in the wild, you need these ranges. And I get where this type of shit leans heavy towards Canon and Nikon because they've been the staple in this for so many years that they have all the lenses available. And as a pro, you don't care what brand is on the front of that camera. Yep. You care, can I get the focal length that I need for my lenses? And then you go, I need a certain ISO performance. I need certain frames per second if you're shooting sports. And these are the type of things so pros think about what they're doing first and then find a camera to do it.
Right.
And Sony can fall off in a lot of that. But I think a pro camera needs a great selection of glass. So, you can kind of take Olympus out of that. You can kind of take Sony out of that. Fuji kind of falls out of that. And you come back to the big two, Canon and Nikon. Yep. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. And Sony's addressing the issue. Right. And I'm sure Fuji's working, but it is what it is. And the last thing that 1,000% I can tell you, in my opinion, makes a professional camera. 2 card slots.
Oh, yeah.
2 card slots.
Who's running that now?
Canon and Nikon been running that.
Fuck.
This is why, again, right? To undermine the entire tone of the conversation with that article.
Right.
You can't shoot a wedding with a camera that has
a single card slot.
Because if one of those fails, if your card fails and you do not have a second slot in your camera,
or another camera.
Not even another camera. It's not about another camera. Because at a wedding, there's no do-over. You can do it 2 ways. You can say, okay, one card records JPEGs and the RAWs go to another card.
Right. I would do it like that.
You can have it both RAW and JPEG goes to card A, and then from card A, both RAW and JPEG gets copied to card B. Mm-hmm. That's how I would do it. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's ways to do it, but the point is you're never fully shit out of luck.
Right.
Because you can't tell someone, oops, I got everything but the moment.
Oh God.
You know what I mean? That's career ruining shit right there.
Pissed to the highest of pistivity.
So Sony kind of falls out of that because only the new Sony A9, that's the new one, has 2 card slots.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
where?
I mean, that camera's no joke. But the Fuji X Pro 2 that I did, the review that I did, that has 2 card slots. But that's Fuji's Pro camera.
Right.
So yes, and it's weather sealed and all the stuff that we mentioned. Olympus has an offer in the EM1.
Back up to the Sony. The Sony A9. That's what body style is that? Is that the?
It's a variation of the A7.
Okay. I thought it was their full out DSLR style.
No, you're thinking the A99.
Okay.
So that's like this crazy high. It's still an SLR, but mirror. I don't know. I didn't do much reading into it, but even though the A99 they said is like a wild camera in itself, but it's got its own use cases. Yeah. But the A9, the Sony A9 is the new guy. Excuse me, that shoots like 24 frames a second. So they say like shooting 24 because they always said mirrorless could never be a good sports camera.
Right. It doesn't shoot 20. It's like, I know on the 6000 it's like what, fucking 12 frames a second?
I mean, that's, this is full frame. These are full frame large images.
God damn it.
So I mean, the A9 is really turning stones over. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the conversation of pros and pro camera and who's what's a professional photographer. I mean, Instagram doing their thing on an iPhone gets approached by a brand. I mean, you're not consider them a professional.
Professional iPhone camera user. I mean, I think it's an argument that is to be continued.
Yeah,
because first of all, Facebook, not so much, but Instagram makes anyone appear to. I consider myself nowhere near a professional. However, I strive for that professional shot. That quality shot. Sometimes I'll use my 6000. Again, it's not a professional camera, but it's the camera that I use, and it gets me very close to it.
Yeah.
Or if I'm at work and I have not brought my camera in because I can't take my camera to work, I can take my phone in, but I can't use it. So I'll have my iPhone with me, and I'll take my shots. And my shots are pretty decent, I think, using the tool that I have.
Right.
And I apply the same dynamic to using an actual camera to using an iPhone. And I think if I'm applying the same dynamic, then I can achieve those professional level shots or close to.
Especially if you edit and post, doesn't matter.
Right. So it shoots raw.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation because I got a lot of mobile photography on my Instagram. Both with my iPhone, my Galaxy, whatever the hell. I got a photo challenge for myself that I'm going to do a video on for you guys. I got an iPhone 5.
Okay.
A old one.
iPhone 5?
Yeah. And my plan is to hit the streets with that and do dope shit. With the sole purpose that it doesn't matter what you're shooting with. I'm telling you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as your composition and your perspective is right, this shit's dope. So that's going to be a photo challenge that I'm coming up with shortly. So
I think I'll
you want to hop? You got an old phone in the crib somewhere?
Do I?
What's the oldest phone you got?
Oh God, I don't think I have any old phone. My oldest phone, of course, I've gotten rid of it since, would have been my Lumia 1520.
Yeah, I want a 1020B. I need to find one of those.
Oh God, yeah.
I need to find me a 1020.
The 1520 was that shot really good shots. What was it? A 21 megapixel.
21.
And the things that I did. Oh, I want to show you. I'm going to pull them up. He's talking. You can talk. I'm going to pull up these pictures from when I was in the Bahamas.
Okay.
And I shot this with not the 1520. What was the white one? The Nokia 920.
920. Still a monster.
Oh, God.
That was the one before they jumped out the window with the 41 pixel.
Man, oh my God. These pictures still to this day.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
To this day, look remarkable.
We'll wrap it up. We'll throw the pictures in on the stream. So the people can see Nokia is the business, baby.
Nokia. Listen, I think that if Nokia were to focus on cameras.
Yeah.
I think they would be in the argument.
Yeah. I mean, this was the video I did about for you guys interested in tech. Check out the main channel. I got a video up there about the Nokia 8. Mm-hmm. And I think because the cameras were so serious, but they were tied to Windows Phone, and Windows Phone was fighting for traction,
right,
and never got it ultimately. But the conversation there is not a lot of people knew about the quality of pictures that came out of Nokia phones. Like I'm telling you, up to this day, there's almost nothing close.
Now this hasn't been worked on, but I think that this shot
that's tack sharp.
Son,
that's tack sharp.
So I'm at the wedding. It's a wedding shot. I'll probably throw this in. He probably won't like that I threw it in and he's on the video. But however, listen, I'm diving into kind of sort of the photography. I've been trying to keep it on a back burner dealing with other things. However, this shot, it's in focus. And then now
it's bokeh. And you weren't even
I wasn't close. I wasn't close, and I used the pinch zoom.
Yeah.
So it's I guess once we get into post-production, we can maybe see where the deficiencies are.
I mean, I've been dropping those images in Photoshop for a while. And it's just, listen, we gonna do it. We may do a separate video because right now the battery is doing what the battery does.
Son.
That's
look at the colors.
Yeah.
The colors.
Nokia's winning, baby.
We're gonna cut this out.
Nokia's winning. Don't forget to like the video if you like it.
Do like it.
Hit the subscribe button. We got plenty more coming. You can find this man on the sneaker channels if you're into sneakers.
Whoops. Damn.
Or the iPhone repair channel.
Yeah.
Link in the description below to all our other channels. My name is Ramon.
I am Tawan.
We out of here.
Peace.
Well, I guess. And the reason we started Lifestyles Defined is because if we weren't on camera arguing about these things, the technologies, the phones, the iPhones, the Androids, the cameras, the games, we'd be on the phone arguing about it. We'd be in each other's houses arguing about it. So why not just put it in front of a camera for everyone to enjoy it the way we do? That's what Lifestyles Defined is all about. We just